Sony, what in the world is your PlayStation division doing? If this is your idea of branching out your library of games to a different platform, then you couldn't be further away from the mark. Stuff like this is what sets you up to fail, and it's a damn shame because there are some amazing games that PC gamers can potentially miss out on. Let's discuss that in this video. Hey, if you enjoy content like this, drop a like, make sure to subscribe, and smash that bell so you never miss another video. Hey, what is going on, guys? Danny here, welcome back to the channel, and I hope you've all been doing well. So, over a week ago, there was this whole fiasco surrounding Helldivers 2 on Steam, where the devs were going to push an update which would require all Steam users to link their accounts with a PlayStation Network or PSN account, regardless of if they even owned a PS5 or not. If you refused, then you'd essentially be locked out of a game that you had purchased, had been playing for several months, and had worked without a PSN account just fine. On top of that, what made matters worse is that PSN isn't available in several countries around the world, while Steam is, and Helldivers 2 was sold there even though the devs had a notice from the start that eventually a PSN account would be required. But since PSN wasn't available in those countries, there was no way to make an account, thus the gamers from those regions were going to be locked out of their game. Of course, this didn't sit well with the PC gaming community, and Helldivers 2 was review bombed to oblivion. In just a matter of a couple days, that goodwill the devs had built over a few months was tarnished, and the review rank shown on its Steam page was very negative. Following that, there was mass refunds because enacting a change this restrictive after the game had already been out on the market for like 5 months and was sold in those regions where PSN wasn't available in the first place was extremely disingenuous. Eventually, Sony rolled back their decision to integrate the sign-in requirement for Helldivers 2, which was great so players wouldn't have to worry about getting locked out of their games if they didn't comply. However, they only addressed the problem partially. Now, since I'm in Canada, their decision to roll back this requirement would make things go back to how they were before. I wouldn't have to create a PSN account, and I can continue to play Helldivers 2 as normal, and for future players in the region, that wouldn't be an issue either, or for new players, it wouldn't be an issue either. But what about the regions where Helldivers 2 was delisted? Turns out, the players who had already purchased the game in those regions can still continue to play. The downside is that Sony has blocked future sales of Helldivers 2. So on a website like SteamDB, you can see just how many regions are blocked where you cannot purchase Helldivers 2 anymore, and recently they did also add a few more regions. So in total, there are 180 countries where sales of Helldivers 2 are blocked. It's quite interesting to see how once they tweeted they weren't going to enforce the PSN account sign-in requirement, a lot of the reviews were changed to positive. And I mean, hey, if you're able to access the game and you're happy with it, that's great, but there are a lot of people whose experience has been ruined in those blocked regions because they might have refunded it and then decided, hey, I'll buy it again since they got rid of that sign-in requirement, but now they can't. Or perhaps they still have their copy and can play as they were before, but what if they wanted to get some of their friends on board, or perhaps they wanted to gift it to one of their best buds, but now they can't do so? For a lot of those folks, they just won't have that motivation anymore. And so far, it doesn't seem like there's been any official statement made by Sony in regards to the blocked regions, and considering the fact that they've been adding more regions to the list alludes to them being firm with their decision, and going forward in countries where PSN is not available, Sony games will no longer be for sale. This leads us right into our next topic, which is surrounding the release of Ghost of Tsushima. Now, this game has been highly anticipated by many PC gamers. Many PC gamers globally, it's an action-adventure game set in 1274 during the first Mongol invasion of Japan, where you play as Jin Sakai, a samurai on a quest to protect Tsushima Island. The gameplay involves exploring a large open world and engaging in combat either directly or through stealth tactics. The game has been praised for its melee combat, story, characters, performance music, and particularly its beautiful landscape and minimalistic art style influenced by samurai cinema. Despite some of the criticism about its scope and structure, it's widely appreciated for its cinematic visuals and the immersive world and memorable characters, making it a standout title in the action-adventure genre. As soon as fans saw that there was a listing for it on Steam, many people were hyped. PlayStation's got plenty of great exclusive titles that fans would love to see on the PC, and over the past few years, we have seen numerous titles get ported to the PC and sell well. Titles such as Horizon Zero Dawn, Forbidden West, Spider-Man, Last of Us, and more. I personally think exclusivity is pretty dumb, and these days, using it as a means to sell your hardware just doesn't have the same benefits as it used to provide these companies. They're better off branching out and making their games playable on multiple platforms for people to enjoy, and they are starting to realize that, hence all the releases I just mentioned. However, with all of these slimy corporations, they just gotta find a way to start abusing their customers, see how they can extort them as much as possible, and experiment with how much they can get away with, not realizing that this is going to be detrimental to their future. Just like with Helldivers 2, Ghost of Tsushima has the same purchase restrictions, where it's not going to be available in those regions where Helldivers 2 was delisted. What makes this move all the more scummy is that during the whole fiasco last week with Helldivers, the developers of Ghost of Tsushima responded to a user on Twitter stating that while a PSN account would be required if they want to take advantage of the Legends Online multiplayer mode and to use the PlayStation overlay, it's not required if someone wants to just play the single player game, which is ideally how it should be. I mean, I'll go as far as to say that the PSN requirement shouldn't even be a thing, especially since a multiplayer game like Helldivers 2 has proved it can work without it. But nonetheless, given the fact that many people who are interested in this game is for the single player experience, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But nope, they decided to take it a step further and just make it unavailable in those regions regardless. Now, it appears as though the community is a bit more divided on this, because with Ghost of Tsushima, this requirement is present from the start, which is okay in a lot of people's books, and I can see that being a valid point. It's when companies out of nowhere implement these kinds of changes, like requiring an extra sign-in layer, that pisses a lot of people off. And like I discussed in my previous video with the Rockstar update that ended up getting my account compromised, that was a whole mess, and I just hate having to go through that. In any case, Sony has decided that data collection via the PSN requirement is worth more than the sales in those 180 countries, and given the way the tech industry has thrived with large corporations like Google and Amazon, whose bread and butter is data collection and selling your data, it's at the top of their priority list. So for those people in those regions where PSN isn't available, they're not going to be able to purchase the game, but that doesn't necessarily mean they can't play it. When corporations make dumb moves like this, they're basically incentivizing the consumer to indulge in piracy, because they have no choice. Not going to get into the whole piracy debate, as it's a large topic that deserves its own video, and there are plenty of those kinds of videos already on YouTube, but the bottom line is this: there are many people who pirate not because they want to just steal the games, but a lot of the times it's because they simply don't have access to that content where they live. Even if they wanted to legally buy it, they just can't because the publisher decided they don't want to sell in those regions. When Sony said they were still learning, they definitely meant it alright, just not in the way people had expected them to. I also think that going forward, Sony is going to be rolling out their own launcher on the PC, which will still allow them to peddle their exclusivity policies. So even though they're going to be bringing more games to the PC platform, they're going to be doing it in a way that solely benefits them. As of now, by releasing games on Steam, they have to give a cut of the sales to Valve, and along with that, if there are any situations like what we saw with Helldivers, they don't have to worry about a third-party company stepping in and issuing mass refunds, and that is very concerning. Now imagine if Helldivers 2 was exclusively available on Sony's own PSN launcher on the PC, and they rolled out some disruptive update that totally ruined the experience for players. Well, tough luck, because if you think Sony would have issued all those refunds, you'd be dead wrong. With their own launcher, it's their policies and only theirs. You won't have Steam or Valve coming to the rescue to step in and issue refunds. Then on top of that, it gives them the opportunity to boost their PSN subscriber count and then appease shareholders by saying, look at how many new subscribers we've added this quarter. The other thing that they can also do is, for all the games that have a multiplayer component, they'll require a PSN Plus or Gold monthly subscription. Now, I want to reiterate here that none of this is confirmed, it's just speculation, but with all this bullshit we've seen in the gaming industry, this doesn't sound so far-fetched. On the other hand, we have seen this story before with major publishers like EA, Ubisoft, who opted for their own launchers and then eventually brought their games back to Steam. Even Microsoft, as much as they like to push Game Pass and their own Windows Store around, have been releasing games on Steam. Sony is still relatively new, and they're obviously going to be trying whatever tactics they want, but with the way they're headed, I doubt it'll last for long, and we'll see history repeat itself, and then their games will be back on Steam. It's 2024, and I feel like we're just regressing backwards with some of these corporations. Instead of making things more streamlined and easier for consumers, they're making things more costly and convoluted just to look good on some spreadsheets. With that said, it just sucks that they're making consumers jump through these hoops who were ready to throw money at them because of their PSN region limitation. And like I said, it seems like clearly their priorities lie elsewhere. Alrighty guys, so that's going to do it for this one. We'll touch base in the next video. If you guys found this video to be informative and entertaining, then leave a like. Let me know your thoughts and comments down below. Be sure to check out the video description for cool links and ways to support the channel, such as using my Amazon affiliate link. And if you're interested in seeing more content like this, then consider subscribing, I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.